Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or should I say good morning, depending on where you are living at this point in time. Welcome to a cold, somewhat rainy, and definitely brisk Wednesday here at Fairfield University. We're so glad you could join us for the mid-semester check-in. For those of you who don't know or remember me, I'm Mark Liggis. I'm the Vice Provost for Undergraduate Excellence here at Fairfield.
And I send you the same greetings as Dr. Liggis. My name is Will Johnson, and I serve as the Dean of Students here at Fairfield University.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your hectic schedules to spend a few moments with us so we can update you on what's been going on campus, specifically for the class of 2023. As you can imagine, we are well into the fall semester. The first 6 weeks of class are behind your sons and daughters as they focus on midterm season and, of course, the upcoming break for the Columbus Day weekend, and then the mad dash, if you will, to get us to the end of the semester. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to spend the next few minutes talking about a number of issues. First, we want to recap what's happened thus far over the first 6 weeks. Then we're going to segue to what's coming up so that you have a better idea of what your sons and daughters will be experiencing. And then finally, we'd like to end with the resources that are available to you. And the way in which we're going to do this is Dean Johnson will talk about the student affairs, student engagement side of the house, and then I will focus on the academics. So with that said, why don't we start talking about where we've been over the past 6 weeks.
Great. So particularly for our first-year students, they have been engaged in their first-year seminars in the FYE program. And the FYE program is really in place to help students understand all of the resources, all of the supports that are available here at the university. It also serves as a mechanism to help them develop a social circle here at Fairfield. Many of the students who are in their FYE seminars are either in the same major. We have several FYE seminars that have that same commonality. Several FYEs that are thematic, so students are engaged in this because of a particular theme. But certainly, all in all, they're all first-year students, so in many senses, they are all in the same proverbial boat. And during FYE, there's an opportunity for the community associate and the new student leaders. Are the orientation leaders that many of them met during June orientation, help them understand and begin to develop those academic and social skills that they will need in order to navigate through the demands of the Fairfield University experience. Also, we are encouraging students at this time to get involved on campus. I know many students come to college certainly through the advice of parents, guardians, and others saying, just focus on your academics, don't worry about getting involved just yet. What we have found, and certainly there's research that supports this, is that students who are involved and engaged tend to be our most productive and well-to-do students here on campus. Back in September, we hosted our Student Activities Fair, which we host every year to give students an opportunity to see what the various clubs and organizations are that are available here on campus. I would have to say that this year was probably one of our most successful student activities fairs. It was initially supposed to be held outside, but then the rain came through and we were forced into the field house. But it really made for a great event where there was a lot of vibrancy and energy about what's going on campus. It's really, really great for us to see. For students who may be still thinking about what it is they can get involved in on campus or what type of activities are available on campus, the university has a dedicated web page, which we refer to internally as Life at Fairfield. And Life at Fairfield provides a list of all the clubs and organizations that are available on campus, who those leaders are, how to get in contact with them, when those clubs and organizations are meeting. So students, if they want to, can reach out, find out more about the club, even just show up at a meeting. In addition, on Life at Fairfield, there are also calendars of events that are taking place throughout campus, whether they're academic related, whether they're purely social related. It's a great way for students to find out what's happening on campus. We hear a lot from parents and guardians who tell us that their students are telling them that there's nothing to do on campus. Certainly, you can take a look at life at Fairfield yourself and see that there are plenty of opportunities for students to be engaged and do something constructive here on our campus. We also make it a point on the weekends in particular to make sure there are late night activities that are going on, particularly between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. So every week, there are dedicated programs for students to engage in during those hours that, again, give students something to do while they're here on campus.
On the academic side, a lot's taken place over these first 6 weeks. We welcomed everyone in after you said goodbye to your students with our first year academic gathering to kick off the welcoming of the class of 2023. During this period of time, what we had was the opportunity for the first year students to hear a keynote speech by Dr. Jacqueline Borichka, professor of politics and one of the associate vice provosts in our office, and she spoke about radical hospitality, which is the theme or the mantra, if you will, of Fairfield University this year, how we can be more welcoming and inclusive of those who come to our gates, come into our classrooms, and come into our lives. Certainly, we believe that this was a great way to welcome your sons and daughters to campus and to really set them on the right track for what it means to be Jesuit educated. In that first week, the other big issue that your sons and daughters experienced, and I'm sure many of you heard about this, was the drop ad period. As you remember, they had to go through the orientation phase over the summer when they came to campus or worked with us via email or telephone to set up their fall schedules. And for some of the students, the schedule didn't quite fit their needs or didn't fit with other obligations they had on campus. So during that drop ad period, the students were able to come in and work one-on-one with assistant deans in each of the schools or with members of my team in the Office of Academic Support and Retention to modify or change their schedules if need be. And please know that this is an occurrence that happens at the beginning of every semester so that even after your student goes through the registration process, he or she always has an opportunity right up through the first week of classes to adjust their schedule. Where we are gearing up to now is, of course, midterms. Many of our students have experienced exams already as early as the second or third week. So in college, as many of you know, and certainly as your students are experiencing, a midterm doesn't necessarily just mean one exam, 7 weeks through the semester. There could be courses where there are multiple midterms, 2 or 3 perhaps happening in addition to a final exam. So the students are very much engaged in studying and preparing for exams, doing writing projects, working, of course, on regular assignments. I have to tell you, I just made my way over here from the library, and the library is packed. You'll be happy to know that your students are working quite feverishly, though I know they're also looking forward to this long weekend break, so that may explain part of it too. The other thing I'd like to point out is that now that your students are embedded in their classes, we are hoping, and certainly our faculty are encouraging, that they're reaching out, coming to faculty office hours, and engaging the faculty beyond just the classroom. Remember, the academic and the learning experience isn't just about the 50 or 75 or 2.5-hour lecture. It is also about those times when these young men and women can ask the questions, get to know the faculty member on a more personal level, and hopefully receive feedback which will help them to start to mold their perspective of what they want to do over their course of time here at Fairfield. The last thing that is starting to ramp up here is advising. As your students might tell you when you see them this coming weekend, the official advising period for spring registration is underway. This does not necessarily mean that every student is being academically advised now. Over the next 5 weeks or so, the schools will determine when they formally want to undertake advising and when their faculty can start meeting one-on-one with the students. But the process, the window is now open so that students can be connected with their faculty advisor to talk about what classes they want to take for the spring semester. A bit more about the academic advising model. And for those of you who I had the opportunity and pleasure of speaking with over the summer at orientation and then connecting with again in our fall welcome webinar, I apologize for the redundancy, but that's because this is just so important, especially for the first-year student. It is a culture that we strive very hard to develop here at Fairfield University. Please know, and please continue to stress this with your students, that academic advising can take a number of shapes and forms. Yes, every student has a faculty advisor, and that advisor is based on his or her major, and if they're undeclared, that advisor is certainly based in his or her home school. There is also the department chair of the program or major that the student is enrolled in who can act as an advisor. All of our assistant deans, as you may well remember, certainly from orientation, they can be another level of advising. My office, the Office of Academic Support and Retention, has counselors available specifically for the first-year students. So please know that at this point in time where we're really stressing the advising and making that one-on-one connection, there are a number of avenues that your student can take, and we welcome the opportunity to speak with them in greater detail about their academic progress.
So some important dates for you to keep in mind over the next several weeks. First up, as Dr. Liggis has referred to already, is the fall break. Fall break begins this weekend, October 14th and 15th. Students do not have classes on Tuesday. Is there a late class session on Tuesday?
No.
After 4:40? No classes at all.
All undergraduates.
All
next
undergraduate
Monday and
classes
Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday. Just wanted to confirm that information for you. Hopefully you've all received information for and have registered for Alumni and Family Weekend. Alumni and Family Weekend is a week from this weekend, October 18th and 20th. So you're going to probably get a little bit of overload from your students over the next couple of weeks, an opportunity to see them, touch base with them. But this time for us to welcome you here on our campus, hopefully to engage with many of the members of our Fairfield University community. We invite many of our alumni to come back over the course of this weekend. We're going to hope for some beautiful weather during that weekend, and hopefully it will be a really nice, vibrant, and festive event on campus. At this point in time, students may also become aware of many of the retreats that are available here on campus, and I want to bring special note to our Kairos retreat. Our Kairos retreat is facilitated by campus ministry here at Fairfield, and you'll see the dates for the Kairos retreat are the weekend before Thanksgiving this year, the 22nd and through the 24th. Kairos is a wonderful experience for our students. There is a limited amount of space on the Kairos retreat, and it's a very popular retreat amongst our students as well, too. It's a great way for all students, no matter what class you are in, to really take an opportunity to engage with life here at Fairfield, to engage with campus ministry in terms of their spiritual growth and development, and really get an opportunity to interact with many other people within our community. Thanksgiving break is very late this year. Thanksgiving break actually rolls right into December this year. So Thanksgiving break will go from November 27th, which is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, right through Sunday. And the one piece of information that I like to throw out there about the Thanksgiving break is there will be a really quick turnaround between Thanksgiving break and the end of the semester. Essentially, we'll be a week away from the end of the semester when students return to campus on that Monday. So things will transpire very quickly after the Thanksgiving break as we wrap up and head into the intersession, which you'll see will begin on the 19th of December and run through mid-January.
In terms of the important academic dates, one of the first things that's coming up is our Major Minors Fair, which will be on October 22nd. This is an excellent time for first-year students to learn a bit more about the various majors and minors throughout the university. So, for instance, if you have a son or daughter who's in the College of Arts and Sciences and is undeclared, that's fine. This is a great chance for him or her to walk through and talk to faculty from the various departments to find out a bit more about these areas of study and what that can lead to post-Fairfield. The other wonderful thing about the Majors Minor Fair is that all the schools are represented. So, for instance, You may have a child who is in the Dolan School of Business as a finance major. He or she may also be interested in perhaps a politics minor. You have arts and sciences representatives and business school representatives all in one location who are able to talk about what they have to offer and how their curricula can fit in to the student's plan of study. Midterm estimates. This is a very important time. We are literally approaching next week the midpoint of the fall semester. For every first-year student, it is required that faculty who teach first-year students report in, through a software that we have here at the university, students who are earning grades of C- or below. What this does is this provides us the opportunity from an academic perspective to do some proactive outreach. Not only will the Office of Academic Support and Retention reach out to the student, indicating the various resources that are available and the office hours that the student can participate in to talk about any concerns or struggles they have, but the student's information will also be shared with their homeschool dean's office so that the assistant deans can do the same type of outreach. Again, the point of the midterm estimate is not in any way to scare the student, to upset the student, or to make the student feel that he or she is not succeeding. It is instead meant to be a proactive way to let the student know that we see, the faculty member sees that there may be a potential struggle, and what can we do and what kind of resources can we make available so that the student can move upward with that grade, that we're to the point by the end of the semester the student has earned a final grade that he or she is more comfortable with and that is more reflective of his or her academic potential. November 12th is another important date. This is the course withdrawal deadline. So if a student is struggling mightily in a particular class and has been working with the faculty member and there still doesn't seem to be a positive turnaround, this is where we give the opportunity to the student to ask that important question. Do I think that with the remaining time in November, in that short period of time, as Dean Johnson said in December, do I think I will be able to earn the passing grade? We certainly don't want to see a young man or woman struggling needlessly. So this is where the serious discussions need to take place with the faculty member, then with the assistant dean's office to determine if perhaps it's most appropriate for continued academic success for the student to withdraw from a course. We do not take this lightly. We certainly do not actively promote students withdrawing from courses because they've sacrificed a good deal of time and effort to get to this point in the semester with the courses that they're in. However, if the serious conversation needs to be had to make sure that a particular course doesn't end up negatively impacting a student's progress, we will have it, and this is the time in which we will be meeting with the students about that. Academic advising, as I said, started on October 7th, earlier this week, and will run straight through to November 19th, which is the day when the class of 2023 will be able to log into the online registration system and choose their classes for the spring semester. Certainly, we don't just let them do this willy-nilly. Each of the first-year students will have met with their faculty advisor and received specific instructions for how to register online on their own.
If I might add on that subject, as Dr. Liggins was talking about midterm estimates and alerts that students will receive about their progress, it's often the same time where parents ask that question of, will I be notified about their progress? And as parents of college students and high school students as well too, I think Dr. Liggins and I are both aware of the ability of parents to track their students' progress generally through that K-12 system. Here, I think, is what presents an opportunity that goes a little differently when we're talking about college students. Now, where all of that information will be directed to them. This time, fall break is an excellent opportunity for parents to ask those important questions to their students of how they are doing. It is totally okay for parents to ask for evidence to see how their son or daughters are performing academically within the university. So I think that the fall break this year comes at a very opportune time for parents to really take a position and ask those questions of the student to see how they're doing academically and really how things are going for them this semester. To segue to some of the resources that are available to students from a student life perspective, we understand students may still be going through some adjustments, whether they be a first-year student, even some of our sophomores to this point, with their experience here at the university. The Office of the Dean of Students serves as a central repository for students who have questions on a number of different topics, including some of those that are academic related, about who can they go to, who can I ask questions of, who can give me the assistance that I need. Within our student life division, we also have our Office of Student Engagement, which takes care of many of our extra and co-curricular activities, as well as working with our international students, our graduate students, our clubs and organizations, oversight of our first year experience program, our Office of Residence Life, as the name would tell you, that deals with the experience of our students who are living on campus. But additionally, our Office of Residence Life does work very closely with our commuter students here at the university. So if you do have a student who is commuting here to Fairfield University, the Office of Residence Life would be a first place for you to go for any questions or concerns that you have on that end. Our Office of Student Diversity and Multicultural Affairs works with a wide array of students across many different demographics here at Fairfield University in terms of providing support, resources for all student populations here at the university, but with a particular attention to many populations that are underrepresented here at Fairfield. Counseling and psychological services, along with the Student Health Center, as we move into these cooler months of the year, certainly we are faced with many students who live in residence with each other who are starting to get sick. The Dean of Students Office receives notification of many of these students who are experiencing some sort of illness right now, or maybe just dealing with some psychological or mental health issues that need to be addressed right now. Please continue to encourage students to take advantage of these resources that are right here on our campus, that are readily available to them, that are of no additional cost or charge to them whatsoever. And then I spoke about campus ministry as well too. For any students who may be looking for some additional levels of care and support, particularly from a pastoral standpoint, campus ministry is readily available to support students on that end as well.
In terms of the academic resources, again, for those of you who were able to attend orientation and or also participate in the Fall Welcome webinar, some of this will be repetitive for you, but it's worth mentioning. We have a number of offices and entities available so that you can be assured that your student has the proper resources and tools to make this as successful of a journey in the fall semester and this first transition semester of college as possible. Certainly, peer tutoring is well underway. All of our key introductory and foundational courses have peer tutoring sessions taking place. And what this means is that once or twice a week, every week for the entire fall semester, students can pop in and they can receive tutoring, guidance, and extra help from upper-class men and women who've been identified and vetted by faculty members teaching in the subject areas so that the students can get the feedback and can get the assistance they need in these introductory classes. Please know that we work very closely with our peer tutors. They go through a training process. They know specifically what is asked of them. What we've found here at Fairfield is that, and I'm sure this is no surprise to you as moms, dads, and guardians of these young men and women, these students respond best to their peers. And when we put an upper-class peer who's a major in a certain area, who has done extensive work and has taken a number of classes in the area in front of these first years, they respond very favorably and they find themselves comfortably asking questions and as a result learning the material in a much more amicable and free way. So peer tutoring is definitely happening. Please don't hesitate to ask about that with your children as you speak with them this weekend. Library research support is always available. We have an incredible staff in the Domena-Necilius Library Complex who have research backgrounds and who know how to work with the higher education crowd. As you know, many of our students are already writing papers and being asked to do in-depth research, either from written textual work or from online and electronic resources. We have the expertise there. We make that readily available to the students throughout each semester. Project Excel is a specific fund-granted opportunity that we're very proud of here at Fairfield University for the young men and women who come from first-generation backgrounds, who really have had no prior guidance on the college experience, especially the academic side. We have the Project Excel resources, the counselors, and tutoring specifically available for them. As many of you likely know, we have an Office of Accessibility for the young men and women who have documented needs with regard to accommodations in order to achieve their academic success. Our Office of Accessibility is working with not only the student, but also with the faculty members so that we're providing those resources such as extended testing time, note-taking services, alternative testing environments, proctoring of exams, so that these young men and women can succeed and so that their gifts can be fully realized in the classroom. The Math Center and the Writing Center, they're available in our new academic commons. As we know, college-level math and college-level writing, these are huge transitions for many 17 and 18-year-olds as they step onto a college campus. We have well-versed faculty members, graduate students, as well as upper-class tutors in both of these centers to help these young men and women develop their skills quantitatively as well as in written form. And last but certainly not least, we have the University Career Center. While it may seem a bit odd to be sending a first-year student to the Career Center, at Fairfield we know that this is part of their professional development, which is key to the total development academically, socially, spiritually of these young men and women. So we very much support and encourage them to talk to their career counselor, certainly to participate in the various career events that we have. As an example, just a few weeks back, we ran our fall career fair. We had over 120 employers and graduate schools on campus talking certainly to the upper-class men and women about opportunities, but also looking forward to engaging with the first years to see where their interests lie so that they can be best prepared for them in future semesters.
Right, and if a student happened to miss the fall career fair, there is another career fair that takes place in the spring as well, too.
That's right.
And certainly we don't tell any student that they cannot go to the career fair. They need to dress appropriately for it, though. So make sure they come back with a pair of khakis or a nice button-down shirt.
But Dean John,
yeah.
to that point,
Yeah.
our Career Center has a career closet. So if indeed there's a tie missing or a blazer missing,
Yep.
we have your young daughter or son covered.
Right, absolutely. So please encourage them to come to the spring career fair. One of the last points that we want to make, and I think we've touched upon this a little bit as we've gone through multiple slides, is how can you as parents and guardians help students? One of the biggest messages that we really want to get across to parents and guardians is how can you encourage and help students to self-advocate? Students are here on campus with us every single day. We have direct access to them, whether it be through the classroom or in many of the open meeting spaces that are available here on our campus. We invite them, we encourage them to come to our office, to schedule appointments to meet with us. This is the most helpful way, generally speaking, to get students to the resources and the assistance that they need in order to be successful.
I think along those lines, I would just like to suggest what Dean Johnson had alluded to earlier, the importance of this upcoming weekend. It truly could not be happening at a better time. Your student is most likely going to return back home this weekend, tired, perhaps a bit frazzled, certainly with books and work that needs to be done, but they will also perhaps just want to chill out and relax, and certainly are going to be looking forward to some good home cooking. Mind you, our Tully food is extraordinary, but nothing better than mom and or dad or guardians cooking. What I ask is that you take this time to really speak with them and ask the questions about how everything's going academically, socially, personally. As Dean Johnson had just said, we are creating a culture where these young men and women are asked to advocate for themselves, right? We are working with them over the next 4 years. We want to hear from them. We want to hear the good things. We want to hear the difficult things. But of course, they're very new still to the Fairfield environment and to the college environment, so we have no doubts that they more than likely are going to be opening up to you this weekend. Many of you approached me over the summer at orientation and asked, how can I help? How can I participate? I understand that this is about my son or daughter taking the reins and being proactive in their educational development. But really how you can help and work collaboratively with us is to engage with them, ask the questions. Are you seeking this out? Are you struggling here? Have you talked to the appropriate person? Are you aware of the resources that are available? And most importantly, please keep them positive. We know that these students throughout middle school and high school worked extremely hard and as a result did extremely well academically. They were accepted to Fairfield for a reason. Their gifts and talents are shining. However, it may be that they're shining in a different way. What was always 100% or an A+ may not be that at this point in time. That doesn't mean that it can't be that 7 weeks from now when the semester ends, but it also means that it could be something different. And that's not a bad thing, that's a reality. That's also about self-actualization, exploration, and finding out what one's talent and what one's strength truly is. So please, please take this time this weekend to talk to them and ask them how things are going, and to point out the blatant and obvious issues where perhaps the student needs to come back and advocate a bit more or seek out certain resources.
And certainly, this is still a period of transition, as I mentioned earlier, not just for our first-year students, but for all of our students. Even our seniors are adjusting right now. They can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we are giving them that space to realize this, giving them this space to adjust, and certainly we're hoping that parents and guardians are doing the same. Know that we are here to support students and all of their academic, social, co-curricular endeavors, at least those that do abide by our student conduct code. So we want to make sure that we are helpful. We're making sure students are engaging in the Fairfield University community in a very positive way, and we just look for that mutual support on both sides from parents and guardians from the university, and help the students, that is, to achieve their ultimate goals.
So with that said, Dean Johnson and I are done with the formal talk at you part of the presentation. We certainly thank you for tuning in and attending this webinar, but we now want to give you the opportunity to ask questions. We have a wonderful media center person here who is able to take any questions you might have, and we will answer them to the best of our abilities.
Cool. You guys ready?
We're ready, Zach.
All right. First question. Where can I find the grades needed to pass and receive full credit for a course?
So, in the course catalog and in the student handbook, we list our grading policy. Certainly there are a number of specific policies, but the general one is as follows. By the end of a student's 4 years at Fairfield University, he or she must have an overall GPA of at least a 2.0, which is a C average. That doesn't necessarily have to translate into every grade must be a C or higher, but the overall average must be a C. In specific majors, the major GPA requirement may be a bit higher. So for example, if someone's in the Dolan School of Business and they're an accounting major, their accounting GPA must be at least a 2.5 in order to be considered for graduation. I think to perhaps your more general question, as we're looking at these first-year men and women as they approach the end of their first semester, we are hoping and looking for each of these young men and women to end the semester with a 2.0. We know that for many that will be quite possible. For some, due to transition issues, that might be a bit of a struggle. So what will happen is if they fall under a 2.0, there will be outreach from the dean's office. There will be a probationary period that they will be put under, not in any way meant to scare the student out of the notion of being at college or at Fairfield in particular, but really this is meant as a way to say that we've got you, we're watching out for you, and we want to make sure that you are more directly and consistently connecting with us so that we can get that GPA up.
Perfect. We have a question about student life. Is there a master activities calendar that the students may access where they can see major specific programs as well as FUSA, Res Life programs, club programs, athletics, and all other activities?
Absolutely. The Life at Fairfield webpage that I mentioned earlier is the best repository that I can think of for our students to be able to go in and see what's happening on campus on a day-by-day basis, a week-to-week basis, a month-to-month basis. It is a heavily populated website with lots of information. Students can also access the university's master calendar, which has a lot more information on there, some of which isn't always directed right towards our students, so they would have to decipher a bit between what's of interest to them and what's really for other people to know about. But again, I would really direct people towards Life at Fairfield. I would also direct folks to our Fairfield athletic website as well too for any information on varsity athletic programs that are taking place here on campus. I know many of you may have students who are involved in our club sports, and generally all of that information is populated within Life at Fairfield as well.
Cool. Question about peer tutoring. If peer tutoring is not found on the Life at Fairfield website, such as microeconomics, how do you find it?
Okay, so thank you for pointing that out. The peer tutoring schedule should indeed be on Life at Fairfield, and I know this because I just received an email earlier this week. However, for the specific example of microeconomics, in the business school, the economics tutoring and the accounting tutoring is run specifically out of the business school. So business students have received outreach specifically guiding them to the location and the times of peer tutoring for their programs. Though they are also run by upper class students, that information comes separate, and my guess would be, since, as many of you know, we've just moved into the new business school, whereas in the past we've received the information for economics and accounting to put on our overall peer tutoring information sheet. That may have not happened this semester because we've just physically made the transition into the new school. But I can assure you, any young man or woman who is taking those classes, and even economics if you're in arts and sciences, outreach has been made for when and where the tutoring is happening.
Cool. And maybe let's just provide some clarity on the information found on Life at Fairfield. So on the Life at Fairfield website, they can find all the information relating to clubs, when they're meeting, and where they're meeting.
That is correct.
Perfect. Just want to clear that because that's another question in here. A question about academics. Are midterm estimates only for freshmen?
That's a great question. The faculty have mandated or required that midterm estimates must be reported for the first year students. With that said, when this software is open, a faculty member can indeed report a midterm estimate for an upper class student. And certainly both the academic dean's offices and the Office of Academic Support and Retention will do that outreach. So if a senior appears in the software with a midterm estimate, we will perform the outreach to him or her. But it is only mandated for the first year students.
Perfect. Question about withdrawals. If you withdraw from a course by the deadline, how does that impact your GPA?
That's a great question. It does not impact the GPA. Now, I want to be very clear on this. With a withdrawal, so student X is in Introduction to Philosophy, and feels that he or she is overwhelmed in that class and is not doing well academically, and after a lengthy discussion with his or her advisor and or assistant dean decides that a course withdrawal is best. What will happen is that a W will appear on the student's transcript. That W is in no way indicative of negative performance. Some institutions use the WP for withdraw passing, the WF for withdraw failing. We do not do that here at Fairfield. What the W signifies is that for this particular student, something at that moment in that student's life, whether academic, social, personal, or what, has caused the student to step back and say, wait a minute, this is not right for me at this point in time, but I know I've advanced so far in the class, I need to step away. That is all the W means. There are no GPA implications associated with it.
Cool. Next question would be, where do students go on campus to get an on-campus job?
Where can students go to get an on-campus job? Well, there are on-campus jobs available everywhere. And there are a number of different types of jobs available for students on campus as well, too. And what I mean by that is some students may have received federal work study through their financial aid award. And there are a number of jobs on our campus that are available to students who are eligible for federal work study. We have those students in our office, in the Office of the Dean of Students. They are in many of the offices throughout student life, Office of Residence Life, Student Diversity and Multicultural Affairs. There are work study students that work within the academic units, within dean's offices, within specific departments have work studies opportunities as well too. So students are able to seek that information out on the university website to find out what jobs are available. There are also a number of non-work study positions available on campus as well too. And those positions are available probably in a smaller subset of offices on campus, but nonetheless, there tend to be a lot of those positions available. Examples of offices that have non-work study positions include our campus recreation. I always encourage students that if you happen to be a lifeguard, to go to campus recreation and tell them you can be a lifeguard. The Quick Center for the Performing Arts has non-work study students available. I'm pretty sure that the library also has non-work study positions available. So with a little bit of research through the university website, students are able to find out where those work study jobs or on-campus jobs, I should say, are available. Certainly encourage them to visit the Office of Financial Aid. I also know one unit within the university that I forgot to mention, Sodexo, which is our on-campus food services partner company. They do hire our students for part-time positions in our dining hall and dining services as well, too.
Okay, perfect. This question goes, our child underwent an emergency hospitalization and missed a week of school. Is there an advisor or the right person to talk to our child working with any allowances that can be made?
Yeah, I think perhaps Dr. Liggis and I can both take on this question. First of all, we hope that your student is doing better now and is on their way to recovery. It is frequent because life happens that our students have illnesses, injuries that require them to miss time away from school. One of the first things that we ask our students to do is to be sure that they notify the Office of the Dean of Students. What the Office of the Dean of Students will then do with that information is send notification out to appropriate partners on campus. That might be letting the health center know that there's an illness. That will certainly mean that we will let all of the academic deans or the academic dean's office in which your son or daughter is enrolled, your student is enrolled, to let them know that the student will be away from campus for a set period of time. The academic dean's office will then in turn notify the student's faculty that that student will be away from campus. Mark, maybe you want to talk a little bit about what happens from there.
Certainly. So once the faculty member is alerted to the student's absence, specifically for medical reasons, The faculty will wait to hear back from the student once the student is better and is able to return to campus, and then a plan of action is worked out in terms of, did the student miss an exam? How can a makeup exam be administered? Was there a particular graded homework assignment that needs to be turned in? How to get that turned in? Of course, there's the more overarching issue of how to get that young man or woman caught back up with the information from the missed classes, right? It's not just the work that comes out of the student, it's also the time that the student spends in the lecture facility with the other class members. So that's where the faculty member can work with the student in terms of coming to office hours, getting caught back up with information, having the student connect with another student in the class to get missed notes and other information. What we certainly do is we recognize as a community that, as Dean Johnson said, life does happen and we need to be able to adjust for it. In some cases, it may be that alternative work is created because it simply may not be possible for the student to replicate what was missed. So as you can imagine, in an argument and advocacy communications course, the student was absent for the day in which he or she was to present and debate on a specific topic. That cannot be redone, so maybe the student now is given another topic and at a later point in time is asked to report out and comment on that. But we definitely work with the students to make sure that they get back on equal footing and continue to progress in the course.
If there's one piece of information or advice I think that both of us would give to any student who may be experiencing any illness, if they can do so, make sure that they are in touch with their faculty.
Yes.
It is always best to be proactive, to let faculty know directly from the student that they are going to be away from campus, away from classes for an extended period of time. Open that channel of communication early on, and the tendency for faculty to be very receptive to assisting the student moving forward is increased tremendously.
Yes, exponentially.
Exponentially. And certainly if the student is still experiencing some difficulty, to some of the points that were made about academic support, if, God forbid, a student happens to be away from class for an extended amount of time and may have to think about, how am I going to manage all this work with a short period, a short window to complete it? Course withdrawals, incompletes, these are all other types of conversations that students will want to engage with faculty on in order to ensure that they're able to complete their coursework in a timely manner.
Cool. And another question about midterm estimates. Yes. Are midterm estimates given for all classes, or is it just limited to poor performance?
They are given for all classes, but again, the midterm estimate is if I'm teaching a class and I have 25 students in it, when the midterm estimate alert comes up, I will scan my roster and my grade book, and any student who is receiving a C- or below, I can report in on that student so that the outreach can be triggered. Now, I do also want to make this clear. We do require midterm estimates of first-year students by the faculty member. With that said, could there be a particular student in a particular class who is currently at a C-, let's say, and the faculty member chooses not to put him or her into the midterm estimate? Yes, and why is that? Well, the most likely case is that a number of graded components have not happened in the course yet. The C- grade could be based on just one element of the course, yet other elements of the course are quite strong. So for instance, a majority of the grade thus far might be based on homework assignments, so that's pulled the overall grade to a C-. However, maybe the student scored 100% on the first exam. That wasn't necessarily enough to get the student up beyond the C-, but the instructor can see there are 2 more exams coming up, plus a written paper, and oh, by the way, this student is an excellent writer. So it could be that in some cases the student does not receive the midterm estimate, though they're struggling with satisfactory work at that point in time. For the most part, the faculty members err on the side of caution and will report it, but it's that threshold, that C- or below, where the reporting is done.
Cool. We have a question about academic advising. Is there an Office of Academic Advising?
It's the Office of Academic Support and Retention, and we have 2 counselors down there who are available to meet specifically with the first-year students. Again, the first years can go to these counselors. They could go to the assistant deans within their specific schools, or they can go to their faculty members.
Cool. And a question about the upcoming dates. Kairos is coming up, and we're wondering what that is. What is Kairos?
Well, the best way for me to explain Kairos, having not participated in Kairos myself, the response that I get from our students is really a kind of taking a deep dive into their life, to their experience here at Fairfield, both as it is right now and looking forward. It's an opportunity for students to be extremely reflective in where they are and what they want to be. And particularly, I hear lots of students comment on being able to acknowledge those folks, those people in their lives that have been instrumental in that experience. So Kairos is a 2-day retreat that I'd like to say takes students through this process, this experience of coming to some of those realizations, some of those realities. There are often speakers during Kairos. There are testimonials that have been given during Kairos. There is plenty of information about the Kairos retreat on the university website, particularly on the campus ministry page. And if you have more information about the retreat, I would encourage you to reach out to campus ministry directly to find out a little bit more.
Cool. And we have another question about peer tutoring. How do you become a peer tutor? And if so, do you get paid?
Yeah.
Yes. So
jobs on campus.
That's it. That is another excellent job on campus.
Right.
As we said, we are always looking for upper class men and women who are studying in the major discipline area where we're seeking a peer tutor. So for example, Spanish, we certainly need tutors for first years in those introductory Spanish courses. Where do we turn to? We turn to the faculty members to say, who are your upper class majors and minors who've been through not only the grammatical courses and the context and reading courses, but also the speaking courses so that they can work with the first years. In most cases, we get the names directly from the faculty members because the faculty know the students best. And what we do then is we reach out to them from the Office of Academic Support and Retention with a formal letter saying that you've been identified and would you be interested in participating as a peer tutor. Depending on how much demand we have from students who need the tutoring, that will determine the number of peer tutors we need. Typically, we have 1 each semester for each discipline. But given the demand, there could always be the need to hire a second one. And the other thing to keep in mind is that a student who serves as a peer tutor in the fall, he or she may not be able to do that in the spring. So there's always the opportunity for turnover too.
Perfect. Next question. What is Project Excel? Is that an accounting program?
Yes. No. Project Excel is a federally funded grant program. It is set up for young men and women who are first gen and or underrepresented populations in the college campus setting. The idea behind Project Excel is we have these incredibly smart and talented young men and women who are coming to college with not only a lack of prior experience, but they've not necessarily had individuals in their family or in their social circles to talk about what college is all about because they are the first to experience this. So the federal government has said to institutions such as Fairfield University, we are willing and able to provide you the resources to identify counselors and tutors specifically for these young men and women because they have the capability, they have the gifts. We want to make sure that they feel properly supported so that they can exceed.
Cool. That's all the questions we have for today. If you have any other questions, feel free to email engagement@fairfield.edu. and we will provide. We will try to forward that along or answer it ourselves. You guys want to give us a closing remark? Say thanks for attending.
Thanks for attending.
Parents, guardians, thank you so much for your time. I hope that you enjoy the weekend. For those of you who will be welcoming your sons and daughters back home, we certainly are excited to continue moving them along this fall semester. All the best.
Take care.